Finding the time.
Hello, hey.
Nice to see you. My students,
Oh,
we are finishing the project now. We are archiving
What is that?
100 prominent our maritime heritage.
Okay.
They decided that we need to do heritage based on the people story.
Okay.
And Ambassador Kesapani told me that we should start with Mr. Naden, but we have started to video, even familiarly and all that are inside. So my students have a few questions to ask you before we video.
Desmond, why am I here? Book. Have you got?
How many one?
We just give them one copy.
Okay.
Oh, why am I here? Yeah.
Huh?
Been reading a lot of your books.
No, that's not about my maritime
Oh,
thing.
thank you, sir.
Where do you want me to sit?
Anywhere, sir. They're saying this is your normal position. Then my students will sit here.
Where are you from?
Singapore Poly.
You?
Yeah.
All college. What is that? What's that?
Maritime business.
Maritime?
Business. Maritime business.
Maritime
Maritime
Huh?
business.
Maritime business.
Maritime what?
Business.
Business?
Yes.
Oh. I better put on my hearing aid, otherwise I can't. Come, some of you can sit here.
Oh, okay.
Be comfortable. One of you can sit there.
Okay, you all can ask the questions now. Okay, Mr. Naden, so what we have done is like to fill in. To fill you in, we have already done this. Building our national identity. So Heritage Board has bought into it. Rosa Daniels all supported. So this was what we did. We talked about the eminent people on what we needed to do. So this has been submitted already to Heritage and also the white paper for Minister Lawrence Wong. They are very keen on building up with us.
Okay.
Then this was what you gave us. We actually had an exhibition last year where we raised it. Remember your message you gave us on what we must do? We have done it, and we have done our heritage project grant. First $5 million grant was launched by PM Lee. So we have done all that. So now we're doing the Singapore story where the students are working with me on a long-term project and documenting people.
Okay.
Ambassador Kesapani has been fantastic. He's been helping us. So I leave it to the students to interview you on the 5 questions that they have. Continue.
Alright. So first I'll ask you a question. So you were a Siemens welfare officer in 1956. Could you tell us about the shipping industry in Singapore at that point of time?
Yeah. Well, this is about 60 over years ago. You're asking me to remember something 60 years ago. Well, I think the shipping industry at that time was different. We had a what do you call that? The dividing line in between inner roads, outer roads.
Yes, the inner roads and outer roads of the...
No, there was what was it? The brick division.
The wall,
The
the brick division.
wall. There's a term for it, right?
You're talking about division between Malaysia and Singapore?
No. The sea outside Clifford's Pier.
Okay.
Then there was a mold,
Oh, okay. The breakwater.
breakwater.
The breakwater.
That, yeah.
Mm.
So you had a dividing line, and within that line, smaller ships that used to sail to Sarawak and Brunei, used to sail to Indonesia, Penang, that area. Smaller ships used to be anchored there, and Clifford's Pier was very much a hive of activity. People wanting to go to those boats or coming from those boats took the sampan up or down. There were some light, what you call launches. So Clifford's Pier was very active. Outside the breakwater was more deeper water. So the bigger ships used to anchor outside other than going along the wharf at Tanjung Pagar. and we had so small ships, many of them owned by a British company called Straits Steamship that used to ply within Malaya, Sarawak, Sabah and all that. And in other small ships owned by Chinese companies called Hiap Eng Mo, and such small companies. And there was the Dutch East India Fleet, also based in Singapore. They were known as the KPM ships. They were also small ships, plying between Singapore and all the Indonesian islands at that time. So that was the nature of that. The shipping companies and the agents were mainly around Battery Road, that area, Lau Pa Sat, that area. Then at the corner of Finlayson Green. So the shipping activity is very much centered in the town, Union Building and so on. Most of our seafarers who were working on the ships were either Malays from Malacca. There were very few Singapore Malays at sea at that time. There were some Boyanese. Then there were Chinese who were ethnically divided. The catering department on ships, providing the food and so on, were essentially run by Hainanese. In the engine room of ships, small ships, you had either Cantonese or Hainanese as engine room hands. So we never had seafarers who were from Singapore. They used Singapore as a base for their employment. That was the seafaring community. So that was the state of affairs at that time. But all that has now changed. We have very few of the small ships anchored close by. We have larger, the fleet that arrives in Singapore is much more international and much bigger. So I really do not know the present state of affairs.
Okay. So as a Seamen's Welfare Officer, you dealt with many aggrieved seamen, right?
Yeah.
So what were some of memorable moments that left an impact on you when you had your job?
Well, the main thing was the seamen used to be ashore when they are unemployed. When they are working on board ships. If they are working on ships, they are just on shore for a day, just off duty. But most of them went to their bases at home, were unemployed seafarers. And for them, there were limited jobs, with many of them trying to secure them. And recruitment was done by the agents, and later there was a Seamen's Registry Board established to regulate the employment of seamen. That is, the rosters were kept for different jobs, and people put on their names onto the roster by virtue of when they were last discharged from a ship. So the ones who have been long unemployed will be on the top of the list. Those who are recently unemployed will be at the bottom of the list. So ship owners had to come and select them from there. Unemployment was one major problem, and for most of them, the unemployment also meant no money. So they depended very much on the lodging housekeepers who gave them credit, gave them place to stay. And it was a vicious circle. Beyond that, there were many cases where they were unable to continue working because of their illness or because of their age. And many of them had no families here because they had come from China or they had come from Malaysia to work here. The Malaysian one was easier, you could always send them back to Malacca where they came from. But in the case of the Chinese, China was under communist rule, They had not contacted their family for a long time. They were not sure whether they would receive them, especially if they are handicapped. So those who were ill and could not find employment had to be sent back. And they did not know where to go, how to go. They didn't have the money. So like that, there were many problems. There were problems at sea, where the seafarer has died and his family here left stranded with no income and no money. And there were cases that we had to try to help. But also seafarers by their very nature were also very conscious of their fellow seafarers. So sometimes when a seaman died at sea, you won't be surprised by one of his friends on the ship will make a monthly allotment from his salary to the other sailor's wife, even though they don't know each other very well. So individual cases of charity by seamen to their fellow seamen were very prominent happenings at that time.
Okay, so in your own words, could you describe Singapore's growth from a small trading port to the second busiest port in terms of ship tonnage?
I can't speak so well as your boss, your teacher. He knows the change better. He's now, as I told you, those small ships are no more there. The Dutch fleet has been disbanded. The Indonesian fleet is now operating from Tanjung Priok in Indonesia. Now it's much more international shipping coming through tankers and whatever you. So the nature and the character of shipping has changed. But we are still the base from where we supply fuel, we supply food, we supply crews, we supply facilities to them. So in a way it has changed from old times. So in what way it has changed, I can't, because I'm not directly involved in the trade. But the nature of shipping has changed. We can see the number of ships that are laid up, sometimes waiting to be put back into commission. That tells you the extent of which Singapore is seen by them as a useful hub.
Yeah, so we are trying to set up an Asian Maritime Centre in Singapore. In your opinion, do you think Singapore needs an Asian Maritime Heritage Centre, or should we just have a Singapore Maritime Heritage Centre? Sorry, but do you think that do we need a Asian Maritime Heritage Centre?
Well, Asian Maritime Heritage Centre is very ambitious.
Or then should we just have a Singapore Maritime?
No, even if you want to do an ambitious project like that, it requires tremendous amount of research, contact, and so on. And other countries are not going to easily allow you to set up a center when they are a much bigger shipping community in those countries. So in order to become a center, they must find value in being in the center. So it's a long haul. I don't think you can do that immediately. My advice would be to focus on just a Singapore center.
Okay, what would you like to see in this center and your vision for Singapore in that center?
I have no idea. What the center is going to be like. Those who are planning the center know better. They haven't told me what it is, so I do not want to offer an opinion.
So of course we would like to add in from Sang Nila Utama, how he travelled to Singapore, and Sir Stamford Raffles, he used what type of ship to come to
See, you
Singapore.
can tell stories,
Yeah.
but when you go to a center, people want to see something. What have you got there to show?
Like all the old artifacts.
Yeah, but have you got artifacts? I'm not sure.
Because we would like to use the other maritime. Last time at Sentosa there's a maritime heritage.
No, but there's nothing there. my dispute with your boss is that you want to set up a center. Telling stories is not enough. You must be able to produce something. You know, you make a small sampan and you put there as the heritage center. That's not a heritage center. So I really don't know. You have to exercise your mind into what you want the center to be. Exercise your mind on what kind of items you must collect, where you're going to get them from, how you're going to present them, in order for the center to be like. Otherwise, supposing say, I invite you and say, come go into the center. You go walk around and look and come back. That's not what it is. You may ask questions. Okay, Sangha Utama, how did he come? By sampan. What kind of sampan? I don't know. So in the center, in order for it to come to life, you must very clearly have something to show. And if you don't have, you have to put in the effort to collect them. And where do you collect them from? Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, I don't know. So at the moment I'm speaking to you in a vacuum. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, that's our story. Anyway, I leave this with you, sir. We have already done the research on all this. This is just a copy whenever you have the time to read. Because I've gone down to Sydney Museum. That's what Professor Tomiko asked me to do. I just recently came back from Hong Kong Museum.
That's all okay, but
Yeah.
that's all fine. But my central point is, in the center, what are you going to exhibit?
Okay, what we have written here in our executive summary,
Yeah,
the Singapore story.
yeah, I know.
And it's linked with Asia actually.
Yes, all that's fine. But the Singapore story, just telling the story means you must show something about it. Just telling the story is not enough.
I agree, yeah.
And
One of the things we have done is we have actually traced the ship which the Stamford Raffles came, the Indiana, and Fullerton Bay Hotel. Their GM has been asking us to also help them with their staff and to use Customs House as an exhibit. So we're working both with the public and the private.
Don't change the subject. What do you want to exhibit?
Okay, what we want to exhibit is the story about an artifact.
Yeah, I know
We
story,
should-
I know the story. But what items are you going to produce there to tell that story?
Okay, firstly, like the first ship which the ratings trade on, TS Singapura, we have the model, even though the ship has been scrapped, and we traced back to what ship it was.
Marudu.
Marudu.
Yeah,
We have
Marudu
the
is not
model.
it is not a first ship, it is a coastal ship.
But
Still-
TS Singapura.
No,
so-
TS Singapura is what we named it.
Mhm.
We bought it as a scrap, and we named it TS Singapura to train seafarers.
Yes.
It's not an item of history. It's only the histories. It was the first training ship.
Okay. One of the things we're doing now with MPA, they're funding it, is to bring the first wing in ground craft, Richard Works. It's the first one registered in Singapore, and Richard Works was donating it. So the Malacca Museum was interested, but they gave Singapore the first reject. So the government decided to ask our academy to take over and keep it as a part of history. So we are trying to bring bits together. Ambassador Kesapani is our advisor. He's helping us.
There's no scandal.
Okay.
My question to you is very simple. What?
What are we going to put in there?
That's all.
Okay.
Not who, not why, not what. Then all the story you don't tell me.
Okay.
Because if your center is going to be alive, it must have things to show. Not word of mouth. Word of mouth alone not enough.
Not enough.
So you have to conceptualize the center very, very carefully.
We have written this for Heritage Board.
And I don't know.
Okay. Okay, we'll see what we can. But they have also interviewed the first sailor, Kenneth Kiaba, 1960, marine engineer. 1961, Captain P.J. Thomas. So we are doing the video documenting.
Our history goes back
Way beyond.
way 60s. So that's what I'm saying. You go and put it there, 1960. Oh, just recent times. after the Second World War. So you to be credible.
We have traced back in the archives the Malay annals that covered certain things as well, and even like burial ground here and there. So we are trying to piece it together and sharing with the rest. But we have been listening to people like, they also interviewed Pamela Lee. She's doing the Silk Route on the Jewel of Muscat, something.
Yeah, but all these are stories.
Mm.
What I'm trying to tell you, which you don't want to understand,
Okay.
is this: that for a center to be attractive, to draw people in, it requires more than a story.
Okay.
It requires some visuals. You get me?
Yeah.
I mean, if you go into a museum and you say, I tell stories, who wants to go to the museum?
Yeah, that's true. Museums are very quiet places.
No, so they'll know, not that they'll say, what is the object you have? Have you shown me something? So I'm trying to tell you, you must conceptualize this very carefully. I mean, of course, you have the money, you have everything, but you can't put up a heritage center and bring in a 50-year-old item and say, this is my heritage.
Okay. One of the other things that we have done, which we are doing, is converting 20-foot containers into thematic museum displays to be put in schools, and they rotate. So one can be about fishing and about Singapore as a fishing village, fishing techniques in the olden days, the new techniques. Another container is on navigation. We show the old ancient navigation, how it's done, then the modern one. So we are also doing that. It's part of what we have submitted to Heritage Board, which they are supporting us. So that's another one, mobile museums, because we don't want just a museum. It's a white elephant. Stephen Davis wrote that who wants museums? In Asia, nobody wants. We understand that. That's why engaging Tomiko with his own view, Ambassador Kesapani and another view, Pamela Lee came out with different things. She wrote a paper and says, Frederick, send this to Lawrence. So it's like, wow, we're trying to blend it in.
I'm giving you a different perspective.
We understand.
I'm
we
not
appreciate
interested
that.
in Kesavapani, I'm not interested in Tomiko, I'm interested in heritage. What is the heritage?
So I think that's where our young people can tell us
No, they
what
can't.
would attract
Yeah,
them.
They're
you
just,
know?
they're just learning from us. They're asking me a question, I answer them. But my question is just recent. When you talk of heritage, you must go back to the origins.
From the first time the ship was built.
So beyond telling the story, we must have some exhibits.
Okay.
You know, just let me give you an example. You put a container and say fishing.
Yeah.
Okay. Primary school child goes, yes, he'll be interested. Secondary school child goes, some interest. Junior college student goes, this is primitive. So don't be so convinced of yourself. You always think of your customer. Your customer is those who are going to come and visit the center. You know, Pani can say what he likes, Tomiko can say what he likes. But when you set up the center, if you don't get people to think it's attractive, there's no point out. That is a failure, you see.
Yeah.
So you must think about it very carefully before you go in.
We have put that we work
Yeah,
with
they
the
have put it
Mariners.
down,
No,
yeah.
but we also put Mariners Network. We provide a place where everyone meets, and every week we have a certain function where someone talks about a certain thing, then students come in. We just finished Maritime Youth Day Challenge where we created things and brought the young kids and we asked them for their views. Their views are also very diverse. They want like a skate park within a museum. They want play and fun. We realized that. So we're seeing how we first collect all the information, sit down with some of the
Yeah,
other
but that is
experts.
not a maritime center. You're talking about Asian Maritime Center. But that's not, you know, what I'm trying to tell you is that it doesn't got the groove.
Okay.
Just getting a few students to come and talk to us or come and enjoy a tea or do some skateboarding or whatever it is, that's not the center. So the concept of the center must be something much more. So all I ask you is give it some very serious thought.
Okay. The objective that we actually wrote is to promote the awareness, interest and appreciation of our rich Asian maritime heritage, which forms an important part of the cultural, historical, economical.
Those are all words.
Selling koyo.
Selling koyo. Where is the koyo? What is the koyo? My question is that.
Okay, the
You want to sell koyo, but where is the koyo?
Okay, the koyo is what we are trying to do is this. It's like when I was in school last time.
No.
My history was
Forget
quite
your
British.
experience, man. So nothing. We are going to create a center. We have to think about that. As you said, your interest is different, their interest is different, some other younger people's interest is different. But the center must come to life. You have to tell a story, but there must be something to support your story. You get me? So I do not know whether they're photographs, whether they're whatever. Having a center requires a lot of serious thinking.
Okay. One of the other things we have started working on is a heritage board game of Singapore Heritage Centres. And the other thing, remember last time you asked me, Youth Skipper Flotilla, why that name? We wanted to create a uniform group that is born and bred in Singapore.
Yeah, but that's not a heritage center.
I know, but that is the youth engaging in maritime.
So that's a different kind of activity that you want to create from awareness, or you want to create, to promote interest. That's different.
I see.
That doesn't fit into a center.
Okay, so we have to really think more deeply and
engage
with more people.
What I don't want you to do is to start something and fail.
Yeah. We have engaged people, we have had our staff show all the forums, we have noted down all the things that they have said and all that. And we are trying to put it together. So I'll leave this here.
No, I don't want to.
I understand. Okay,
I've got
okay.
enough of material.
I understand. Okay. So let's see what we can do. I mean, it's true because last time when we built Sentosa Museum, in the end, very few people came and they closed it down.
Yeah.
And maritime museums are just not popular. When was the last time we went? I went because now I'm doing research.
No, because you are passionate.
Yes.
Not everybody is like you.
Yeah, I understand, sir. But thanks for giving us that. But that's what we want, to
Yeah.
make us think and build. Not like some people pat, oh, very good, you're doing a good job, great, you have my support. So Mr. Nada is trying to tell us, think deeply and make sure we do what can be inclusive for all and something that
They cannot,
is sustainable.
Frederick, they cannot think of what the concept of what a heritage center should be.